Live from a studio apartment, this is Misinformation. We got the backdrop tonight. We got some bright lighting, maybe too bright. Might be a little bit too much on the face here. Sorry for being late. I had some technical difficulties. I was trying to... I don't know if anyone here uses AI, if you've ever tried to request technical instructions on something before. But I had this whole complex thing I'm trying to do to like add more channels to the stream and stuff. And I looked up the like how-to on Grok beforehand. So it had a whole plan, whole list of things to do. And so I was like, cool, this should be fine. I'll show up. A couple minutes for the show, I'll get it going. I show up, I start executing the instructions. First instruction, I quickly realize, is instructing me to press a button that does not exist. It tells me to hit some type of button in OBS. No such button exists. So I realize out of the gate, big problem. But in any case, we're here, we're streaming. We're going to do some jokes. Some jokes. You guys ready? You ready for the jokes? Let's get here. Okay. What? Let me make sure I have audio. Yes, good. Well, apparently the new Ayatollah is only into Guyatollahs. Yeah. Yeah, the New York Post is reporting that the new Ayatollah is gay. Yeah. Upon hearing the news, Iranians promptly stoned him to death again. Just putting the stone in the coffin there. Yeah, well, if he is alive, we know where he's been hiding. In the closet. Yeah. Just peeking out. Well, Timothée Chalamet lost an Oscar last night for saying that nobody cares about the ballet or opera anymore. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. Yeah. Luckily for him, nobody cares about the Oscars anymore. He dodged a bullet there. No one was watching. No loss. Well, Elon Musk says AI will create universal basic income. Yeah, which is pretty cool. Yeah, so that one day we can all live like the Minnesota Somali community. They're the only ones who have it right now. But with AI, we'll all have it. Cool, cool. Them's the jokes monologue. I'm gonna pull up the Twitter here. We'll get into the day's news. So, no, I don't want Twitch. Oh, this is gonna be such a problem. Okay, we want Twitter. Let me pull up the chat too, see if anybody's here. I know that was a long wait, so maybe you've perished with the Ayatollah by now. Let's see. Okay, let's get Twitter up. Whoop. Just straight into it. Just straight into a Guyatollah meme. What's up, Spar Life? Good to have you. You're the one viewer who hung around or happened into this sad place at the last second. I like the backdrop. This is a real backdrop, by the way. This isn't a Zoom thing or AI. This is a giant wall mural. Precariously positioned on a tripod. And if it falls, you're going to see my bed covered in laundry. It's going to be the saddest show reveal ever. But yeah, big news today. People are saying that the Ayatollah is gay. This was the big news today. Somebody's tweeting the most obvious joke in the world, Guyatollah. I feel like only into Guyatollahs was slightly better. Still probably bad, though. So this is apparently from a report in the New York... One sec. Let's go here. A report. Let's see if we get it. It's going to be a little... Hold on one sec. I have to get rid of this. Okay. I had to get rid of the chat. I'm sorry I sacrificed you for a second. It's swapping to the other screen. Too much to explain. Okay. This is all from a New York Post article, apparently. So, and the article is basically that Trump was briefed on, I guess, the Ayatollah, the new Ayatollah ran, the status of him. They were in a meeting. As the story goes, as told by the New York Post, U.S., this was last week, learned that U.S. intelligence indicates new Iranian Supreme Leader Mojtaba Khamenei may be gay. It's right out the gate, we got a maybe. And that his father feared his suitability to rule the Islamic Republic for that reason. And apparently this is the reporting as Trump laughed out loud when he heard that. Okay. Others found it hilarious. They were laughing about it. There's the Ayatollah here. They found the gayest picture they could of him. Looks very gentle there. Good God, New York Post. How many damn pop-ups you got? Holy God. I'm never going to subscribe. I'm sorry. I just steal your headlines. Shocking claim was described by the Post. Okay, so what are we thinking about? What are we thinking about this story? We think this is true? I'll try to pull up the chat again. I will say, for me, this story has the lowest credibility rating that I could possibly give to stories. First of all, it's wartime. So anything you hear about an opposing leader in the middle of a war is probably, you should take it with a grain of salt, right? This story could be true, possibly, but it has all the hallmarks of something that is either an op or just made up to basically make the Ayatollah, new Ayatollah, look bad. Apparently, the more likely reporting is that he's gravely injured or dead. That's what we're hearing, and that's what Trump is repeating, is that there's rumors that he's dead or at least incapacitated. So it may just be that he's in such a state that they feel like they can spread whatever rumors they want about him. He can't really come out and do anything about it. Maybe they're trying to smoke him out. And this will be the last straw. He was hiding until they called him gay, and then he's like, wait 1 minute. I have to say something about this. No, but he hasn't said anything about it. The big flag for me is that there's no sources, all right? So even in the New York Post article, it's just described as anonymous sources, basically, all right? Now, this is the same, if you're counting, thing that they do, that the leftists do to Trump all the time, actually. They make up some rumor about him, right? It's always from an anonymous source connected to military intelligence, working with the military, right? So that's sort of a red flag. Is it possible that he's gay? Maybe. There was some rumors that maybe he had, I think it was a caretaker or somebody like that he was supposedly like doing something with as a kid or a young man or something. I don't know. It could also be that there is just, even in Iran, there's dissident groups who don't, obviously they had the protests recently, right? They don't like the government. They don't like the Ayatollahs that are in power. So this could just be a long-standing rumor that's been going throughout those dissident groups for years, probably, right? And obviously, in Iran, being gay is one of the worst things that you could be, right? So this would be something used to discredit this person, particularly when he's down, he can't do or say anything about it, right? It is fun to discuss, though, so that's where we're bringing it up. So we got, here was a tweet about it. I think this tweet encapsulates the situation perfectly for me. First of all, you have the original tweet that's saying, Scoop. Let's see if we can get this a little bit bigger. Scoop! President Trump was briefed last week on surprising U.S. intelligence. New Supreme Leader might be gay. And this was a clip from the article. U.S. spy agencies do not have photographic evidence of Mojtaba's alleged sexual attraction to men. But the sources, these anonymous sources, insisted the tip is solid, with one saying it was derived from one of the most protected sources that the government has. And this person says, my bullies in high school, which is accurate. It's exactly what this story sounds like to me. We don't have any photos of it. We don't have any real evidence, but you can trust me. My source, who I can't disclose to you, is one of the best possible sources, and they said it's true. So I thought this was an awesome tweet. There were some good memes about it. Here was one of them. It's this person saying, so the new Ayatollah is a gay amputee Muslim? This guy could have any job he wants in tech. Would just be, that resume would shoot straight to the top of the pile. Immediate interview. Right? This kind of goes hand in hand with that. It's a fake Time magazine profile. Yep, I'm gay. Exclusive. Mojtaba Khomeini explains why he's coming out. The changing nature of sex on TV. That was awesome. Not too far from the truth either. That is something you could see from leftist publications if he was actually gay and alive, right? Here's another one here. It's just like a cartoon that I thought was funny. There's him shouting Allahu Akbar. And they say, what did he say? And he says, I don't know, something about being gay. Just a simple joke. And here's another one that encapsulates the situation pretty good. What the hell was that? Did Twitter do one of the things where it disappears the tweet immediately? CIA in movies, Mission Impossible type shit. CIA in real life, you are gay. And they're pointing out that this happened before. So this is apparently, is this Iraq? Let me see. Yeah, this is a Saddam Hussein, no pun intended, piece from The Guardian alleging that there's a gay sex tape of Saddam Hussein. Here's gay porn found during raid on Gaddafi home. Not to say that both of these aren't true, right? But you can see that that's the CIA in real life. You were gay. Their main attack. So we got that going on. It's an interesting day. There were no news stories. It was all like this and the Trump presser, which we'll get into in a second. Do Iran for a little bit more. So Iran update. This is Commander Brad Cooper giving an operational update on Operation Epic Fury. You guys can listen in if you haven't seen it yet. I like that they release these actually every couple of days. They're pretty useful. It's just like your work just giving you an update on the status of things.
Hi, I'm Admiral Brad Cooper, the commander of U.S. Central Command, here to provide another update on Operation Epic Fury. First, I want to remember and honor our fallen warriors who made the ultimate sacrifice in the KC-135 refueling aircraft incident last week. We hold their memories and their families, their friends and their teammates in our prayers. Their selfless service and dedication hardens our resolve.
We'll talk about that for just a second. So with the refueling thing, because I was going to mention that in any case. So we've heard that there was this crash over in Iran last week, but there weren't too many details released about it. So now we do know this was a non-combat fatality of, I think it was 6 people, I want to say, that were aboard this plane. It was apparently a refueling plane, which I heard somebody, it's not here, but they were describing how difficult and dangerous those operations actually are. Where, there's sort of these things that you take for granted, right? Where you're like, oh yeah, they refuel mid-flight. And it's like, no, you got 2 planes that have to link up in the middle of the sky, moving at hundreds of miles an hour. It's oftentimes night, right? And the refueling plane is oftentimes on multiple missions to do this throughout any given night. So there's a very small margin for error, and apparently certain accidents can happen. I don't think we have details of exactly what happened, but this was a non-combat loss of life that occurred with some type of an issue with the refueling.
16 days, we've delivered overwhelming firepower deep into Iran. This past Friday, U.S. forces executed a large-scale precision strike on Karg Island, destroying more than 90 Iranian military targets, including storage bunkers for naval mines and missiles and other military infrastructure. To date, our Air Force, Navy, and Marine Corps aviators have collectively flown more than 6,000 combat flights, demonstrating the unmatched capability of America's joint force as we maintain air superiority over Iranian skies. we continue to remain centered on our military objectives. These are well defined and include eliminating Iran's ballistic missiles, drones, and naval threats. It's one thing to defend by striking.
What do you guys think of Carg Island? Have you heard of that? Any thoughts? I was the most compelling thing I've heard, arguments in favor of just taking and occupying potentially Carg Island. So apparently this is, if you're not aware, this is like Iran's sort of crown jewel, where they had all of the oil manufacturing. I guess manufacturing is the word for it. Basically, it's critical for them to be able to distribute the oil from there to their previous allies like China, right? The strongest argument I've heard, we bombed it very heavily on over the weekend, and funny enough, Trump came out with a statement saying, "I have decided not to destroy the oil refineries for now. But if Iran acts up, I might change my mind." He's not destroying the oil refineries. Right? If there's one thing about Trump, which I kind of like about him, when he's taking over Venezuela, when he's taking over Iran, he is unabashedly and unashamedly taking the oil as well. You know? So the most compelling argument I've heard for taking Carg Island is actually that it would form essentially a choke point where now China would be completely dependent, or they'd be completely cut off from oil supplies, right? And the account that I was reading, which I forget who it was posting online about it, but they had a pretty compelling argument for that might be one of the underlying main reasons for the war in Iran, is to ultimately squeeze China for oil supply, right? Eliminate their allies, hurt them economically by controlling the flow of oil to China. So that's one of the better arguments for Carg Island. We had the update on the plane crash refueling. We had the women's soccer team. This is also the update from Iran. So there was all this news last week that the Iranian women's soccer team, half of them, I think almost all of them, had absconded to Australia or were seeking asylum in Australia to never return. I think one person still went back to Iran. Well, now we're hearing that the majority of the team has decided to return to Iran. So apparently when you are an Iranian women's soccer player and you attempt to get asylum in another country, the problem is you still have family back home. And I believe what's happened is we're hearing reports that the families of the Iranian women's soccer team have been taken hostage, which is really unfortunate. And I mean, this totally makes sense to me. What are they going to do? You know, they're going to abandon their families. It's like a good idea at first to try to escape, but then, you know, once people start putting leverage on you, they have to go back. So it sounds like they will all be going back. And it's just more evidence that Iran just is a terror state. They're a hostage state, right? This is the soccer team here. Okay, we're going to pivot a little bit. So the other big news from today was the Trump presser. Let's just pull it up here at first. Trump has this amazing ability to just generate news on his own, you know, which is kind of a blessing for people that, I was thinking about this today, like people that, first of all, news organizations, right? But then people like me that report on the news or do live streaming about it. I mean, even on a slow day, he can just generate like 8 or 9 stories just talking. I think it's pretty incredible the amount of talking he does too. So I think he did like 3 different press conferences today. I saw, or it was at least filmed at 3 different locations. I saw him initially in one location at some sort of a conference, and he was speaking at the White House. He appeared to be, and then in a hallway. So here's just some of the bigger things from the presser today. One of the big things was that he revealed at some point that he's spoken with a previous president, and that the president, who he says he likes, intimated to him that he wishes he had invaded Iran, but didn't during his term. So people are speculating that this is Bill Clinton. I think...
And yet every president knew. I've spoken to a certain president, who I like, actually, a past president, former president. He said, I wish I did it. I wish I did, but they didn't do it. I'm doing it. Yeah. I can't tell you that. I don't want to embarrass him. It would be very bad for his career, even though he's got no career left. Go ahead, please.
You mentioned.
How about the man?
I think they asked him like 3 times who it was, and he wouldn't give up. He wouldn't tell him who it was. But it does seem like he might be referring to Bill Clinton. I know recently Bill Clinton, during his deposition for the Epstein files, had basically backed Trump and said he hadn't seen Trump do anything wrong to his knowledge. So it does seem like those two might kind of like each other a little bit. I don't know that he likes Biden in that way. I don't feel like he does based on what he said about him previously. I don't know that he has a great relationship with Bush, maybe. So that was one thing. He dissed on France at some point. So he was talking in the presser about his talks. He was asked to rate his talks with the French president. And on a scale of 1 to 10, he says they're an 8. It's not perfect, but he says, but it's France, so we don't expect perfect, which was kind of a funny moment.
Have you been speaking with the French President Macron about the coalition to reopen the Strait of Hormuz?
Yeah, I have spoken to him. He's been, on a scale of 0 to 10, I'd say he's been an 8. Not perfect, but it's France.
Are you
We don't expect perfect.
Are you?
Just super good moment. Really funny. And that was one of the big themes of the presser, which I thought was really interesting. He goes into this here in this next clip. But he was talking about the Strait of Hormuz. And apparently he's been asking other countries to get involved with opening up the strait and defending against Iran and escorting ships through. And nobody wants to help us, obviously, because that's always what happens, which is his point, is we pay for NATO, right, for years and years and years to defend these other countries. And then the second that we have some small military operation, which this is sort of paraphrasing Trump, he's saying the second that we have something that's not even that big of a deal, we've eliminated most of Iran's military already, suddenly they refuse to help us. You can listen to him here. I'll just let him talk.
Done a great job. And when we want to know, do you have any minesweepers? Well, would rather not get involved, sir. I said, for 40 years we're protecting you, and you don't want to get involved in something that is very minor? Very few shots going to be taken because they don't have many shots left. But they said, we'd rather not get involved. I just want the fake news media and everybody else to remember that that was said, because I've been a big critic of all of the protecting of countries, because I know that we'll protect them. And if we ever needed help, they won't be there for us. I've just known that for a long period of time, just like I knew about the strait, that it would be a weapon. Done a great job.
I think he's spot on there, you know? It's one of those things, it sucks to hear it, but honestly, yeah, those countries that we pay for, that we support, that we're backing all the time, just won't be there for us. Like in this instance, he's asked them to do a very simple thing, and none of them want to get involved. None of them want to risk anything for it, right? I do like that he points out that the U.S. will remember this, you know, because if there's anything Trump is, he's sort of, you know, if you support him, he's going to support you back. If you don't support him, he's definitely going to do the same back to you or worse, right? And I think that's how we need to be a little bit more with foreign policy, is not immediately supporting these countries, especially when they've shown they're not going to support us in return, and just let them know that, you know, in the future, this kind of thing where they're not stepping in and stepping up to help us out, it'll be remembered, right? He did have a bad moment, I think, from the presser. It was sort of an unforced error. I'll play it here. He's talking about Gavin Newsom, and he makes some comments about him having a learning disability. We could hear here, we'll play it here.
That he is a cute person, you know, because Gavin Newsom has admitted that he has learning disabilities. Honestly, I'm all for people with learning disabilities, but not for my president. I think a president should not have learning disabilities, okay? And I know it's highly controversial to say such a horrible thing. The President of the United States, Gavin Newsom, admitted that he has learning disabilities, dyslexia, everything about him is dumb. But then he looked at the audience and said, "What, I'm smarter than you," or something like that. That was pretty silly. So now, on top of everything else, I call him a racist because it happened to be a black audience. I will tell you this. I think it was the worst interview I've ever seen of any human being in my life, okay?
It is funny. I mean, it's funny what he's saying. And, you know, to be fair, Trump talks so much sort of unfiltered that there are bound to be these things. I just feel like the point he's making, it's not that the point's not valid, to be honest, you know. The problem, I think, is all Gavin Newsom has as far as learning disabilities, as far as I know, is like dyslexia, which isn't really considered to be something that would, you know, affect your mental well-being or something like that. I think it's considered fairly common. So I imagine that this is something that leftists are going to run with. You know, there's that picture of Trump doing the that they use to say he's making fun of disabled people. Expect to see them floating that picture around a lot. I like his comments on Gavin Newsom being racist. I just think it was a slight misstep bringing up the dyslexia as a reason why he can't run, because they're just going to use that against him. And you already have, in fact, here's Gavin Newsom responding to it online here, or at least his press secretary. Of course, to every kid with a learning disability, don't let anyone, not even the President of the United States, bully you. There we go. Dyslexia isn't a weakness, it's your strength. So obviously, Democrats can just easily take the high ground on this and frame it as he's calling people with dyslexia stupid, like they can't do anything. So I wish he had reversed, like, I wish he'd said, like, weakness isn't a dyslexia here. That would have been really funny. But of course they didn't go for it. I'd have gone for that joke, frankly. Should we do some jokes again? Was everyone here for the jokes? We'll do some jokes real quick. I need to do this. Okay. Let's do that. Allow. Oh, God. Just elbowed my printer. Well, apparently the new Ayatollah is only into Guyatollahs. Yeah. Yeah, the New York Post is reporting that the new Ayatollah is gay. Yeah. Yeah, upon hearing the news, Iranians promptly stoned him to death again. Just putting the stone in the coffin there. Yeah. Well, if he is alive, we know where he's been hiding. Yeah. In the closet. Hopefully he comes out soon. Well, Timothée Chalamet lost an Oscar, this was last night, for saying that nobody cares about the ballet or opera anymore. Bummer. Yeah. Luckily for him, nobody cares about the Oscars anymore. Yeah. Nobody even saw him lose. It's like it didn't happen. Well, Elon Musk says AI will create universal basic income. Yeah. Yeah, so that one day we can all live like the Minnesota Somali community. They're the only ones who have it right now. They're really enjoying universal basic income. All right. There's, by the way, I live like, I'm right by my windows right now. And there's a parking lot outside of my windows. And there's a homeless encampment in that parking lot right now. This is downtown San Diego. It's like a little San Francisco, if you can picture that. And there's just like a dog down there. You'll hear it barking intermittently. Probably hears me podcasting up here. I guess live streaming. I don't think you would call this a podcast even. Okay, what else we got tonight? Cuba. There's big rumors that we're going to be taking Cuba soon. Trump had a funny quote about it today. I think he was saying something like, I will gladly accept Cuba, or something like that. I'm honored to accept Cuba. It's almost like a foregone conclusion at this point, it sounds like online, that we are going to have some type of takeover of Cuba, friendly takeover, as Trump called it before, just because they're apparently not doing so well. Like, economically, not doing good. I think they probably saw what happened to Venezuela. Of course, Trump was flexing on the Cuban leader, dictator, or whatever you want to call him, not too long ago. But that seems to have passed. They just seem to be almost in talks. That's the rumor, at least, that they're in talks to have the U.S. somehow take over ownership, finances of Cuba, and try to bring it out of its current situation. There was a blackout tonight in Cuba. So apparently their entire electricity grid is failing, which, again, this may be part of the reason that they are excited to be welcomed into the U.S. fold. So we'll see how that turns out. That's on the horizon. This was a crazy news story. Let me see if I could pull up something on Twitter to kind of go with it. This is not it, but it is, again, a funny photo. The Guyatollah. Tucker, we got some news about Tucker we should probably talk about. By the way, if you guys are on... we'll just hit Tucker. If you guys are on TikTok, I don't always stream here. So if you like the show, you want to watch every night, Monday through Friday at least. And I might start doing it every night. I don't know yet. But if you like watching, definitely subscribe on YouTube. Or I am on some other platforms. I think it's Twitch, Kick, Rumble, the major streaming platforms. Those ones I'll be on all the time. TikTok's going to be like an every other couple days thing. They kick me off too a lot of the time because it's supposed to be just for gaming. So eventually their algorithm figures out that I'm not gaming on here and they just kick me off. So subscribe on YouTube. It's just under missed information. If you really like the show, I do have a Substack that I started where I'm going to be doing after shows where we'll chat, get into a little bit more in depth on stuff, and just kind of hang out for a little bit after the show. And it starts off, it's free for now anyways, but that'll be cool. And I do like a newsletter every day too, where it's like a recap of the stuff I'm discussing in the show. So you get that every morning. If you miss the show, you can just read up on what's going on in the day's news. It's pretty cool, all for free. Tucker Carlson. So apparently there's conflicting reports about what's happening. Tucker came out on his show and talked about it. He's saying that there has been a complaint filed against him, he says, by the intelligence agencies, claiming that he is an Iranian or a foreign asset. A foreign asset. So they're alleging, this is Tucker Carlson saying it, that he is an agent of Iran. Okay. What's funny is just like about, I think this happened like a week before we invaded Iran, attacked Iran. Tucker was invited over to the White House. Now, Tucker says he's not worried about this complaint at all, right? He says he's never been a foreign agent. He feels like it's frivolous. He's been attacked before by the CIA.
What's that crime? Well, talking to people in Iran before the war.
There we have it here. He says he's not too concerned about this. But somebody did bring up a compelling argument about this, okay? Now, he was just brought over to the White House shortly before the Iran war, okay? Met with Trump. Somebody's suggesting it may have been Trump's sleight of hand. I think they're going to say the same thing I am. He says Trump knew Tucker Carlson was communicating with Iran. So what does he do? He invites Tucker to the Oval Office. Okay, Iran sees the photo. They assume Tucker has Trump's ear. Meanwhile, Trump is sitting there smiling. So he doesn't go into details here. But the one situation in which I could see Tucker actually running into some serious trouble here is if there were a situation where, let's say, Trump knows that Tucker is talking with Iran or he's talking with some of the mullahs or something like that, right? Let's say that knowing that, Trump invites him over to the White House. And Tucker says, are we going to invade Iran? And he says, no, we're definitely not going to invade Iran. And he tells that to Tucker knowing that Tucker's going to go back to Iran and give up that info to Iran, right? If Tucker did then, in fact, go meet with people in Iran and assure them that there was no need to worry about an invasion because he'd spoken with the president and from who he talked to, it didn't seem like we were going to invade. That is giving intelligence to a foreign asset, right? So people are suggesting that it was maybe Trump setting up Tucker so that they could catch him in the act, and also set up Iran so that they were more caught off guard, right? Which is an interesting theory. So Tucker, I love Tucker, to be honest. I used to love watching Tucker's show. I haven't watched too much of his live stream stuff, but I thought he was really the big carrier of the news of the day, the news du jour, every day on Fox News for a long time there, and had some really good thoughts. So I'd hate to see it, but if he did something like that, where he actually got insider info from the president himself and then went to Iran and said something to influence their actions, that's pretty bad. So we'll have to see what the case is against Tucker. We don't really have details on it yet, but that's what's going on. Is apparently CIA or somebody's brought a complaint against him, and Tucker says he's not worried, but we will see how that shakes out. Here was an interesting thing. This is just random stuff now we're getting into. So Elon Musk keeps tweeting about this AI and saying that AI will create universal basic income, or universal high income is what he says. So this is sort of the theory that, once AI comes online like fully and replaces everyone's jobs, it's not going to be a bad thing because it's going to create so much abundance that everyone is going to be rich, which I first replied to him in a half joking way. But if everyone's rich, that means everybody's poor. Which is kind of funny, because how am I supposed to impress a girl with my Lambo if everybody has a Lambo? The whole point of being rich is to get hot chicks. I don't understand how I'm supposed to do it. It's like we're all poor, basically, again. I can't do this on personality alone, okay? There was that. I have a funny suggestion. This is a theory I've had for a while, and I'll call it like a half recreational theory. I don't know if it's like, I'm not like betting my life on this, but I think it's an interesting way things could go. If we are in a future where there's AI, nobody has to work, right? What do people do? How do you keep sane, right? Because we're sort of designed to work, right? And I think it might work out just like a gym, which Elon Musk probably if he sees my tweets, he probably thinks I'm the dumbest human being on the earth. But I say, odd prediction. In the future, you will pay to go to work just like a gym. And that's a little fun recreational theory I've had for a while. That it'll be exactly like what happened when we stopped having to do physical labor with the advent of the Industrial Revolution, right? Humans used to need to get out in the field, work, farm. You were naturally exhausted at the end of the day, physically tired, you're jacked, muscular, because you're working all day already, right? So what happened when we had technological advancement with the Industrial Revolution that basically made human farming mostly obsolete? Well, now we have gyms, because people still have that need to get out and physically work, even though the reason isn't there anymore, right? But you still have that need to feel like you're doing something physical and building something. I think that's why people feel good after the gym, is because it's this built-in evolutionary drive that says if you get a hard workout, you're doing something positive for humanity, so you must feel good about it to make you want to do more of that, right? It's an archaic drive now. We don't really need to work out. So then people pay memberships to go to the gym and to work out, to get that physical labor in that they miss so much, right? That they seem to need. So I think there's a chance that the same thing could happen with work and jobs, which sounds ridiculous. But if we're in a future where you don't really need to do that sort of stuff, you could see people, he kind of hints at it here. He says all jobs will be optional, right? So we're still going to have the desire to go work. We're still going to have the desire to do these things. And I could picture a future, I want to do like a funny sketch on this, where it's just, there's like a gym, but it's just an office. And you pay a membership to go in and have a boss, like a personal trainer, assign you tasks to do. And it's like the chicks are into the guys who have good jobs, who still get to work even though they don't have to. Just like the gym. Fun theory. What else we got today? It was a little slow news day, but kind of fun. I'm gonna hit that joke one more time because I flubbed it earlier before we go. This was a tweet from Dave Smith, who I really don't. Ace guy annoys me so much, all of his tweets. What bothered me about the comic Dave Smith guy is he consistently refers to U.S. wars or Israel wars as wars of aggression. And it bothered me so much. Because all wars are wars of aggression, right? There is no war that's an unaggressive war, right? But he thinks he sounds smart by saying war of aggression. What he's trying to say is it's a war of choice, which he recently, I made fun of him, and I don't know that he saw my tweet, but he recently switched his wording away from war of aggression to war of choice, which is more apropos, right? But here he has a really dumb tweet. Again, I understand the points that he's trying to make, but I just, this guy has the vibe to me of like somebody who's pretending to be smart and really wants you to know he's smart. And I just don't think they're smart at all. I think they say the dumbest stuff. So here's one of his tweets. He says, Islam is such a violent religion. He's being sarcastic. He says, every time we murder a bunch of their children, they try to kill some of us. Disgusting. Which, again, I get the point that he's trying to make, right? If we go in and we're harming people's, if we're doing like, he's making a point about Israel, basically, and stuff like that. Going in and, attacking Palestine, hurting people's families, or he's talking about the U.S. bombing that elementary school that was, by the way, attached to a naval base. That's what none of the reporting gives you, is the fact that it was a part of the naval base up until several years ago. They built a small wall. It's tragedy, yes, but connected to the naval base. That's why we were striking that area. So he seems to be just kind of blanket pinning the violence of Islam on U.S. or Israeli actions, basically saying that we're the instigators for killing their families, which obviously overlooks the fact that Islam is in many ways considered by many people to have some aspects of violence that are inherent in the religion itself. Like, for instance, there's parts of the religion where it's like, if somebody makes fun of the prophet, for instance, right? They believe that they're justified in murdering you for that, right? That is an example of a strain of violence that is common in Islam, that does not have to do with us bombing their children, and that's why it exists. It's just an inherent violent aspect of the religion. And I know there's good Muslims, by the way. I know a lot of great Muslim people, so this is not a blanket comment on it. I'm just saying his statement seems to be a very blanketed comment, trying to drag the U.S. down, and misses a lot of the facts. Somebody pointed out here, because it got 87,000 likes, okay, and like 11,000 retweets. And someone's pointing out here on Twitter that new analysis of comic, they put in quotes, Dave Smith's viral post in which he justifies Islamic attacks on America shows that roughly 90 to 90% of the accounts reposting it are foreign or radical Islamist accounts, which is probably to be expected, But yeah, this is a silly guy. I don't like this guy very much. And I've never seen I don't know what happened to the comic stuff. I haven't seen it. Guess he's mostly doing this sort of thing now. Okay. I think that might be it for tonight. We have, here's one more thing. This is the, you know how the leftist media hated Marjorie Taylor Greene for forever? Well, now she's their best buddy, now that she hates Trump and Trump betrayed her, according to her. She's being brought on all the shows.
You've been critical in the past of networks like CNN, but you recently started joining programs like ours. As you became disillusioned with Congress and wanted to get your voice out, I wonder how your view of mainstream media, quote unquote, has evolved now that you've been engaging with them more, and what you think of the latest threats against the press.
I think freedom of press is one of the most important rights that we have as Americans, and I think it always needs to be protected. And I think...
Buddy all of a sudden. So it just goes to show you how fake all of the Democrat news is, right? they're totally against you until you're, you know, Orange Man bad, and then all of a sudden they're bringing you on for featured spots on their programs, and you know, you have MGT here suddenly reversing course about fake news, this, that, and supporting freedom of the press because she's trying to cozy up to this other side now. So it's just interesting flip flop to see. Somebody pointed this out. Bonchi, Seinfeld. I don't know who that is. They pointed it out. Yeah, I think that's it for tonight. The Oscars were last night. The Oscars, let's see if we find a picture of it here. The Oscars is an interesting show. To me, it's an award show that nobody watches for movies that nobody watches. That's how I would describe the Oscars. You can see during the jokes monologue, I brought up that graphic of the, I think I have it here. The declining viewership of the Oscars. This graph was only through like 2021 or something. That's all I could find before going live here. But yeah, it seems like it's just, aside from just even the fracturing where most people on the right aren't interested in the Oscars anymore, there just has been a general decline in interest in movies in general, and particularly in the award ceremony. And I think a big part of it is, too, how political it's gotten. You know, it's just very clear. It's almost like a political rally. You know, it's not really an awards show, and the awards don't seem to be based on merit. You had this controversy with Timothée Chalamet. Apparently, people were saying he should have won the Oscar, but then he had these controversial comments during an interview where he said that, you know, nobody cared about ballet and opera anymore, and apparently a bunch of ballet dancers and opera people got all up in arms about it. And so the rumor before the show was that he was going to lose the Academy Award because he'd made these controversial statements, which he did end up losing to Michael B. Jordan, right? But it just seems like, I mean, if that's an open rumor, it's just clear that these awards aren't even given out for merit or your performance. They're given out based on how much you kowtow to Democrat thought, right? And if you're not going to toe the line and get in there and say the right things, you're not going to get the award, right? Like that can actually, they have like a social credit system that they're giving out best actors for, right? We already know that they put in some DEI practices where it's like you have to have a certain diversity in your film in order to be even considered for an Academy Award. So I don't think it's very interesting. And then you just have speeches with leftists basically going out and saying things you would expect them to say. Jimmy Kimmel taking shots at CBS. None of it was noteworthy, by the way. I didn't even see anything really important from the show. One Battle After Another won the Best Picture, which I want to watch this, actually. I haven't seen it. I do like, my understanding of this film was that it was about people attacking an ICE facility, or they're against ICE or something like that. But I don't really know. I haven't seen it. I've heard it's like a leftist film, but I want to check it out because I like Paul Thomas Anderson, actually. He's a cool filmmaker. And I haven't watched a movie in forever. So I'll watch it. I'll give you guys a review once I see it. I'm going to rent that thing sometime this week, probably. But yeah, they won, predictably. It's kind of irrelevant now. All right, that's it for tonight. I'll be back. I don't know if I'll be back on TikTok tomorrow night, but I'll be streaming this week through Friday, 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'll fix the technical things, so it should be on time tomorrow. If you guys want to join on YouTube, subscribe there. Or the major streaming platforms, probably won't be here tomorrow night. But thanks for hanging out. I will catch you guys later. Let's do... Can I do this? I might do one more joke. Take. You guys don't care, do you? I'll just go.